Welcome back for another half hour of 12 News at 4. I'm Treya Mai. Former President Donald Trump has been disqualified from Colorado's 2024 primary ballot by the state Supreme Court. On Tuesday, the court declared Trump ineligible for the White House under the U.S. Constitution's insurrection clause. That decision from a court whose justices were all appointed by Democratic governors marks the first time in history that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. Hector Diaz of Diaz Law is back with us once again for another legal deep dive. Explain why this is such a blockbuster landmark decision.
It's never happened before.
Yeah.
It really has never happened. So setting the stage, you had a trial in Colorado, a hearing where interested parties wanted him off the ballot. They raised this issue of whether or not he'd engaged in insurrection. That judge said, you know, looks like it, but I'm not sure that he meets the criteria of being a president or former president. They then brought it up to the Colorado Supreme Court. Colorado Supreme Court said, no, he's engaged in insurrection. He's off that ballot.
So what kind of ripple effects could this have?
Other states are definitely looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some rumblings that California is looking at this. There's some likely other states that are maybe have more of a Democratic bent in terms of their politics. They could be looking at this as well in terms of a strategy, trying to get him removed from the primary ballot.
But you were saying earlier that there could even be a possibility that he could stay on the ballot.
He has been very vocal. His team has been very vocal. They're going to appeal this to the U.S. Supreme Court and make the argument that you can't do this. You can't take the right away from the voters in this situation where he hasn't even had a trial. There's been no due process. And if that happens, if he files his appeal before January 4th, my understanding is that Colorado then stays that order and he'll be on the primary ballot in March 2024.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so the big question is here that a lot of people are wondering, should courts or should it be the voters who decide if a candidate should be disqualified for the presidency? What are your thoughts on this?
I think if you asked any judge, they don't want to get in this position. They don't want to be put in a position to remove this voter right, and ultimately they'll let the elections decide who's going to be the president or not. But this is a situation where we're going to see this thing play out whether Trump engaged in insurrection. This is a Civil War provision that's being used now, has never been used in this capacity. I think it's going to be an argument that the U.S. Supreme Court's going to take up. Again, he hasn't had a trial on this issue, as a lot of members in the Republican Party have indicated. He hasn't been convicted, but that provision, when you read it, it talks about engaging. It doesn't talk about being convicted of being an insurrectionist. So it's going to be interesting to see how the U.S. Supreme Court kind of, really looks at this and then makes a decision quickly. I think quickly because it's going to put our elections in upheaval if it's not resolved quickly.
Absolutely. You want to give your prediction? What do you think?
I think the U.S. Supreme Court's going to come out and say that this is an issue where he has not been afforded due process akin to having a trial, and Colorado is wrong, and I think we're going to see him in terms of the primary election being on that ballot.
Wow. All right. We will see. Hector, thank you so much. All four